Hi everyone, and welcome to our ACL Injury Prevention webinar. My name is Nick. I'll be your coach today, and we'll be going through this journey together. Hopefully we learn a little bit and also take away some action steps that we can use to prevent an ACL injury. So let's talk a little bit about who we are at Dynamic Health and Fitness, and then a little bit about why we're here with this webinar. So Dynamic Health and Fitness is a personal training studio. We work with individuals of all ages, whether they're coming in to reduce their risk of injury, coming in looking to get healed from an injury, looking to improve performance, or just simply want to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Why we're here in this webinar, we've seen a lot of individuals come in with different ACL injuries, different knee injuries, and this is something that starts to become near and dear to us, where we want to be more proactive. Rather than individuals coming to us after they've already gotten injured, we want to make sure that we're out there helping individuals stay injury-free so they can really continue to play the sport that they love and not have to go through the 6 to 9 months that it takes to recover from an ACL surgery. So in the webinar, we'll learn a little bit more about the ACL, its role in the body, the action steps we can take to prevent an injury, and we'll be going through a couple of example assessments, and we'll talk a little bit more about what this webinar is going to look like on the next slide. So that way you have an idea as we're kind of making our way through the journey, or if you're taking notes, you kind of know exactly where we are and exactly where we're going to go with this, just in case you have questions as well. So today's webinar, we'll be going and starting off, we'll be talking about ACL tears by the numbers, and why this is a problem, why we're talking about the ACL rather than a different ligament in the body or a different muscle. From there, we'll take a look at the role of the ACL. What's the role of the ACL in the body? What's it do? What's its job? And why is it a little bit more at risk maybe than some other ligaments? From there, we'll be looking at what proper ACL training looks like, or maybe even what improper ACL training looks like, so we can kind of take maybe some improper, maybe not as great exercises and move them a little bit more towards exercises that will help us out more on the field, running through the park, whatever our activity may be. From there, we'll take a look, like I talked about earlier, an example assessment. So what we go through if an athlete walks in or an individual walks in and says, you know what, I'm interested in making sure that my ACL is safe, that I'm not looking to, I'm looking to reduce my risk of injury. I want to feel confident out there on the field. And then from there, we'll take some action steps. We'll learn some action steps that we can utilize and you can utilize to establish a healthier knee. So let's get started. So when we look at ACL tears by the numbers, some pretty staggering numbers that we're going to be going over here. 70% of athletic injuries associated with sports are anterior cruciate ligament tears. From the ages 15 to 25, there are over 37,500 ACL injuries per year. And women are up to 10 times more likely to injure their ACL than men. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that is. But already you can start to see, alright, this is why these guys are looking at this ligament as opposed to another one. This one seems to be the one that everybody's injuring. This one's the one that's taking away athletes from the field or even individuals from doing the recreational activities that they enjoy. And lastly, if you do have an ACL surgery, it takes about 6 to 9 months to recover from, which is a really, really long recovery time. And that's something that, whether you're pursuing a college scholarship, you're in college and you're fighting for a position on the field, you're just simply at work in a normal job and you all of a sudden suffer one of these injuries, that can take you out or really hamper your ability to do your work. But really, most importantly, it's taking you away from the sport you love. It's not that fun to sit on the sidelines, as I'm sure some of you know from being hurt. We want to be out there, and we want to be out there playing and having fun. The most probably astounding fact was a recent research study done that even after this recovery time, even after an ACL surgical repair, the incidence of a second injury to the ACL of the same knee or the other knee, which is interesting, within the first year is reported to be 15 times higher. So if you are recovering from an ACL injury, or recovered, excuse me, you're 15 times more likely to still injure that same ACL or your other ACL on the other knee than that of a healthy teammate. So that right there shows us, wow, maybe some of the rehab programs in place aren't maybe necessarily doing their job. And then looking at the other numbers on the other side and saying, well, maybe some of the training programs in place aren't really doing as good a job as they could be. So when we talk about the role of the ACL, we're looking at keeping that tibia, the shin bone, basically, so the bone in the shin, from moving too far forward, okay, under that kneecap. We don't want it to rotate too far inward either, underneath the femur, which is our thigh bone. We want to keep the knee from entering into hyperextension, so overextending the knee. And we also don't want it to bend sideways in towards the body too much, okay? All of this can lead to injury. Why are women more susceptible than men to ACL tears? There's a couple interesting factors involved here. So let's take a look. One, as opposed to men, the female bone structure is a little bit different. The Q angle of the hip leaves the ACL a little bit more vulnerable. Also, they have usually less developed thigh muscles than men. So this additional stress that the female bone structure places on the knees, the ACL predominantly, starts to fall on the ligaments. And again, predominantly that ACL. And then when the ACL cannot handle the extra stress in sports, or whether you get put in a vulnerable position, slipping on ice, tripping over a dog, whatever it may be, if it's not been trained to handle that additional stress or that vulnerable position, it may tear. So what other factors contribute to an ACL injury besides gender? Quite a bit, actually. And these are things, we're going to focus on a lot of the things that we can look at where we can start to control these factors. So there are more than what we're going to list right now, but these are ones that we can kind of look at and say, all right, how can we control these factors and start to actually utilize them in our favor? So, like we talked about, improper conditioning and reconditioning programs is big. If we can properly condition the knee, the ACL, to handle the additional stress out on the field or in life, or even those vulnerable positions that we know we're going to be put in, maybe not a lot per game, but maybe once or twice, that knee has to be able to handle, we want to make sure that that body is prepared, that knee is prepared. When we look at lack of mobility and stability in the foot and hip regions, that's pretty big, okay? The knee is kind of stuck between the foot and the hip. A lot of the times, vulnerability at the knee is because the foot and the hip aren't really doing their job as well as they could be. And it could be both of them maybe not doing their job as well as they could be, leaving the knee to be a lot more vulnerable. So when we look at training the knee, it's not just the knee, it's training the system as a whole. And we'll go into a little bit more detail about that in future slides here. And as we talk about that system, same idea. The lack of strength and power in the core and lower extremities, again, leaves that knee more vulnerable. So you're starting to see that, hey, maybe it's not just the knee's fault or the ACL's fault that it couldn't handle the additional stress. Maybe we should be looking at above and below it and saying, well, maybe the ACL didn't get as much help as it needed or as it should or as it's supposed to. And then we look at proprioceptive control. So neuromuscularly, are we preparing the body, preparing the knee to handle those different positions? Are we putting it in positions that are like they would be out on the field? And we'll get into a little bit more in the next couple slides. So, biggest factor being, and the biggest one we can look at controlling is improper training. And a lot of those couple bullets previously kind of fit right under this topic. So maybe the foot and hip weren't prepared as much because of the improper training. And you see we have a picture of a woman doing a leg extension, and we'll kind of use that exercise as an example over the next couple bullet points here. So what might improper training look like? And it's important to note before we go through some of these bullet points that there's no such thing as a bad exercise, but there's probably some better choices in exercises that we could make relative to our task or our goal. And I'm assuming that a lot of us here are either playing out on the field or maybe recreational sports, or just looking to get out of knee pain, and all of us at least walk throughout the day. So let's take a look at maybe what improper training looks like, and maybe how we can start to change that into some proper training. So one plane of motion. What this means is when our body moves, we move. It's called sagittal plane, forward and backwards. Okay, a lot of coaches tend to focus out on this plane, but only this plane. But when we look at sport and we look at a lot of different athletes and everybody out there, and we took a million different snapshots of you on the field, we'd see that you move side to side, and we'd see that you move transverse as well, which is twisting. Okay, side to side being that frontal plane of motion, and transverse being that twisting plane. So there's a lot of times where our whole body's either moving forward, backwards, side to side, and twisting, maybe all at the same time. But not even just our whole body, but going more specific, each joint moves in 3 planes of motion. And that knee especially. So maybe not on a table you're not going to exactly find as much motion going side to side or twisting. But when we put the body in an upright position running around, it definitely has some side-to-side motion and some transverse motion, some twisting motion that we got to prepare for, that we want to make sure that knee is really good at handling and taking advantage of. So if we look at this woman on the leg extension here, and we'll pretend she's an athlete, she's looking to strengthen her knee or strengthen her leg. If she's just flexing and extending her knee, so bending it and extending it, that's only one plane of motion. There's no side-to-side motion, and there's no twisting motion. So when she gets out on that field, that knee's not going to be ready. And most athletes get hurt in the transverse plane of motion, mainly because they don't simply train for it. Let's look at the next thing. Single joint movements. We talked about how our body moves in a system. There's a lot of strength exercises that are maybe focusing on more of a single joint move. This simply is not realistic to how we move throughout our games, throughout our sport. You look at even just walking, the amount of muscles, joints, ligaments, bones that are all moving simultaneously in all different planes of motion to get that body to do what you want it to do. So focusing on just a single joint motion does not prepare our body neuromuscularly to handle all those different simultaneous things going on out on the field or out in life. Let's continue here. Unauthentic environments. This one might sound a little bit confusing, but mainly when we talk about the knee being in between the foot and the hip, that foot, when it strikes the ground, has a job to do. There's a lot of joints in that foot, and they each have a job to do in each plane of motion. And if we're training it differently than maybe how that foot reacts, then that knee is going to feel something completely different. So right now, with this woman, her foot's not even on the ground. So her knee's going to get completely different feedback from her foot. Really, actually not much at all. But if she was upright and running, those joints in the foot would be sending a lot of different feedback to the knee, and they'd be setting that knee up, hopefully, for success. And if that knee's not used to training with that foot together, and it's in a fake kind of machine environment where she's also sitting, I mean, that rarely happens in sports as well, that knee's not going to be as prepared. And a lot of times, kind of lastly, and this kind of goes in with the other points here, the knee's only allowed to track over the foot in training, where And sometimes this is correct, and sometimes this is our goal in some of the exercises. But if we're not doing any exercises where the knee is allowed to go to the outside of the foot, the inside of the foot, twisting across the foot to the right, twisting across the foot to the left, and going forward and back, and doing all those things maybe simultaneously, we're setting that knee up for vulnerability. It's almost like if we were to sit in this machine and train the knee in this way, and I know she's probably doing a bunch of other exercises too, but maybe they're more machine-like, and then she goes out on the field. It's almost like me practicing writing with my right hand my whole life, but then as I if I switch over to my left hand to write, I'm not going to be as good because I simply haven't practiced with my left hand. So if she's training in machines for most of her life, neurally she's going to get pretty good at machines probably, and neuromuscularly. But if she steps out on the field, it's like all of a sudden me writing with my left hand, body's going, wasn't really prepared to do everything you're asking me to do right now. So we want to make sure that our training looks and feels as much like sports, the sport that we're doing, the activity we're doing, as possible. So what should a proper ACL program include? Kind of like I just said, look and feel like the task or sport. Why? Because usually the body's going to be doing similar things. The foot is going to be acting similar. The hip's going to be acting similar in our training that it will be out on the sport. So neuromuscularly, it's going to be better prepared as long as we're training smart and we're training efficient. Again, doing something kind of completely different or going in fake environments or sticking to one plane moves or one joint moves, not going to be as prepared. And when we look at proper training, we're going to be following the principles of applied functional science. And let's talk a little bit more about what that is. Now, this is a big definition. It's easy to kind of get overwhelmed by it. You don't have to memorize it. It's just going to give you a little bit of a heads up as to where we got some of the stuff for the next slide. But we'll kind of go ahead and break this down. So applied functional science is the convergence of physical sciences, which basically means that, hey, gravity should be a part of our training. We shouldn't really necessarily be sitting if I'm out running around on a lacrosse field because my foot's going to get something completely different gravity-wise from me running, from me sitting. Biological is the muscles, nerves, everything kind of going on in the inside of our body, working together. And behavioral goes into our emotions, which play a big role in actually how we play on the field, how we practice, and how we move. And kind of finishing up the definition, it consists of the principles. So basically, out of all of these sciences, we can come up with some true principles that we should create strategies out of to begin training. So we'll go over some principles and we'll talk about how that kind of leads to our strategies, and then the techniques is the exercises that we can go through to assess an individual, train an individual, rehab an individual, and make sure that we're also training injury prevention for an individual. So we look at the research that is done in all of these sciences, and we can kind of come up with some big truths that we start to build some strategies off of. So what does proper training look like? What are the principles? One, three-dimensional. So like we said, not just training in one plane of motion, but training in three. So not just doing a lunge forward maybe in our training, but a sideways lunge, a transverse lunge. When we even look at specific joints, not just training the hip constantly going forward and back, but also training it to go side to side and transverse, that hip joint. Because if it lacks range of motion or stability, that hip joint going forward or back, side to side, or transverse, all of a sudden that lack of stability, that lack of range of motion can start to lead to more stress on the knee in certain moves, certain exercises, or certain times playing out on the field. So we want to make sure that not only is each joint moving three-dimensionally in our training, but we get our whole body doing three-dimensional moves. Like we talked about, we're going forward and backward out on the field, we're moving side to side a lot, and we're twisting a ton, whether it's shooting, turning back to kind of cover somebody on defense. I mean, you look at the moves, it's going on. Usually, again, all three simultaneously. Moving is a chain reaction. Okay, so if we're looking at proper ACL training, we want to make sure that the foot and hip are part of, and the core are part of our exercises, and they're all working together in our exercises. No more machines or kind of single joint moves. Again, they do have their role in fitness, but not so much if you're preparing yourself to go out there on the field and have a safe and healthy knee. We want to make sure that foot's doing its job, the hip's doing its job, so the knee can do its job well. So when we're out there, we want to get, we're out in training, we want to make sure that neurally and muscularly, skeletally, that we're on point with our exercises, that they're all working together in our exercises so they know how to work together out on the field efficiently and effectively. It's driven. Sport is driven. Recreational activity is driven. Even walking is driven. What does that mean? That means that maybe running, our foot is driving the motion, which has an impact on our knees. Or if we're up at bat for baseball, if I swing with my upper body, that motion is being now driven by my arms and my core, which all of a sudden has a pretty big different impact on my knee because the momentum is coming from the top down. If I'm running and that foot's hitting first, that momentum and that force is coming from the bottom up. So our knees got to be prepared to handle both types of momentums. And momentums that are being driven from the hands, the eyes, even the feet. And we'll look at a little bit more when we start to look at some pictures. We'll talk about what we mean. But even going a little bit deeper, there's times where my hands might be driving one way and my leg might be driving another way, and that knee better be prepared to not only handle that momentum and handle that move, but do it really well because I want to beat my opponent out there, or I want to beat my time running. Lastly, reaction. A lot of coaches tend to focus on strength training. Awesome. That's good. But a whole program includes flexibility, mobility, endurance, strength, but big time in power. When you look at your sports, it's mostly power. There's a speed component to it. The difference between strength and power is that speed component. Things are happening fast. So we should definitely have some speed, agility, quickness training in there too as we work our way up. But we got to be able to be ready to respond quickly, efficiently, and effectively. If we're just training slow, again, we're leaving ourselves open to certain vulnerabilities. And of course, we have to work our way up to that fast training though too. We wouldn't just start off blitzing it if we found different vulnerabilities in our knee. So let's take a look at some of the stuff that I've been talking about. Here's just some pictures of some players in sports, and we'll kind of take a look at each one here. So if we look at the lacrosse one, you can take a look at each player on that field, and their knees are all going through different positions. Sometimes we have a toe, and I can use my mouse cursor here. We have a toe in here, toes forward. This one has the toe forward, knees behind the foot, knees over the foot. If we look at different momentums. This individual is driving from his hand at the same time he's reaching, which has an impact on the hip, which has an impact on the knee. This individual is shooting, which means that this knee right here, so I'm kind of pointing at the foot because we can't see the knee of that leg, is about to go through a lot of transverse twisting and momentum that it has to be able to control. And then you have this individual who's raising his hands overhead, which has a different impact on the knee too. So all of these different hand positions and all these different momentums, these different directions and these different actions all have a huge different impact on the knee, and they're sending it in all different planes of motion. Same thing with the tennis player. She's about to go through a lot of transverse work with this swing. And most of these athletes, you can see, and we'll see in the next couple pictures, are on one leg. So single leg work is huge when talking about ACL injury prevention training, because most of the time in sport, you're actually really only on one leg, especially if your sport involves a lot of running. Softball player, same thing, kind of similar to the lacrosse player where the momentum is coming from the top down, and all of a sudden these knees are going to have a lot of work to do. You can see both knees are right now on the inside of her foot. This knee is a little bit over the foot on the tennis player. So we can kind of see, all right, hey, this knee is basically in a lot of different positions out there. It's experiencing a lot of different momentums in all three planes of motion, and it better be able to handle those, but not only handle them, perform very well. So let's look at a couple more. Okay, and again, let's take a look at the toes of each one. Let's take a look at where the hips are. The hips are all in different positions. The hands are all in different positions. The eyes are even in different positions, all looking to drive different directions. And you can see, like the basketball player here, his toes are out. All right, in our studio, when we do squat positions, we don't just squat with the one position where it's shoulder width and you're just going up and down. We have minimum, each athlete perform 27 different positions, where maybe there's a right foot forward squat, a left foot forward squat, toes out squat, toes in, right foot forward with both toes out, to prepare that knee to experience all those different positions, to experience all those different, again, momentums, and really be able to handle what they're going to experience in their sport. If the knee's trained, and again, we go back to kind of that improper training, to just track over the foot, or you can very easily see, rarely is that knee just over the foot in sport. It's everywhere. It's sideways, it's twisting, and again, a lot of times at the same exact time. So what might an example assessment look like? And we're going to use Nicole's assessment. She's a college tennis player at Oswego. And we'll open this right up so you guys can see. We'll slide this up a little bit. Okay. So let's go ahead and hit play. So we have her starting off. Well, first we did a lot of flexibility and mobility work. And I did find some different discrepancies. We're not going to go too much into detail about that now, but I will show you the stability work. So in her assessment, I'm not just going to have her go on one plane of motion, of course. I'm going to have her go on all different ones. I'm going to drive her from her leg sometimes. This one I have her driving from her foot. And I'm looking at ankle stability in the right foot first, which is down, and then you'll see the left foot. And I'm looking at that knee as in part of a system. I'm going to look at if she is a little bit more vulnerable on one side, which she is. And this isn't, none of this is fake. This is a real assessment here. You'll be able to point it out, and I'll help you through it. We're going to look at, all right, if her knee is a little bit more vulnerable on one side, why is that? Is it from her hip? Is it from her foot? And I'm going to combine what I learned about flexibility and then what I'm seeing stability-wise with her, too. So let's see. I had her first drive forward and backward, then side to side, because, again, her knee's going to be going through those different positions. Her foot's going to be going through different positions, and then transverse. And she does pretty well. You see a little bit of shakiness, but overall, pretty good. I mean, can it improve? Yeah, and you'll see that with each exercise. But let's look at the left foot and the knee. Mostly focus on the knee. You can start to see, all right, she's got quite a bit more wobbliness going on than she did on the right. And she's having a little bit of trouble going transverse. And we'll start to look at, all right, how does this start to affect the next couple moves, or do we start to see the same thing in the next couple moves? So basically, we saw, all right, there was some energy leaks there, meaning it took her more energy to create that move. Her knee needed more energy because it was really wobbling to get that done. If it needs more energy, that means she's a little bit more vulnerable, but also it's less efficient, which means her performance won't be as great on that left side. But let's see if that was one test. So let's see if we can go through another one and see if we see anything different. This one involves her hip a little bit more. Now, I have her first just squatting, and we'll get to see how that knee does. And notice it's really a total body movement. And you're going to see me take her hands through all these different positions. Why? Because they're out in a lot of different positions out on the field, or out on the court that she's on. So when she's swinging that racket, there's sometimes where she's swinging overhead. There's sometimes where it's off to the side. There's sometimes where it's, a lot of times really, where it's twisting. And I'm going to see, all right, if I drive her upper body in those different moves, like it is out in tennis, how does her knee perform? How does her hip perform? So let's take a look. And she's a little bit better in some positions than others. And you'll see, too, that we notice the left side a little bit more on the foot and ankle one. But her right side is definitely has room for some improvement. You can see when she goes overhead, a little bit more challenging to her. That's because some of the butt muscles get taken out from helping the knee when we reach overhead. Side to side, and I got to go at a decent pace, too, because during her sport, she's going to be going pretty fast. And then transverse. Okay, let's take a look at her other side here. And she goes to the left. And this is the side that we didn't like as much with the foot and ankle. And you can start to see off the bat a little bit more trouble. She's still a little bit more wobbliness. You can kind of see not as confident on that knee, not as confident on that side. If we were to look at her performance, she probably wouldn't be able to cut off as well on that left side in tennis. And that might be a knee that starts to cause her pain throughout her games. Maybe not just injury, but pain. You can see transverse, she actually falls out of the position. So you can see her laughing a little bit there. She knows that she had a little bit more trouble on that side. So that's something that, okay, you know, her sport involves a lot of transverse movement. Every time she hits and she's swinging that racket, it's a big twisting motion. So that knee's going to have to really be prepared for all that twisting motion. And right now, it's not as prepared as it could be. So right now, she's not experiencing any pain. She came in, she said, I'm looking to just become a better athlete. Well, this is a nice little start. Number one, we're going to make sure that, all right, by identifying these energy leaks, that we can reduce her risk of injury that might have happened a couple months from now, or maybe some pain that she could have been in a couple months from now. But even cooler, by stabilizing and by becoming more flexible with her entire body, and especially with that knee, her performance is just simply going to automatically go up just by having a better foundation. And again, she'll finish with transverse there. So what I did here now is I added a little bit more momentum to the game, because I know she's moving pretty fast and aggressive out on the tennis court. So we took a look and we said, okay, now instead of just reaching with your foot or with your hands, I want you to now, how well can you change direction on that one foot with a hop? Now we're going in all three different planes of motion, so her knee experiences side to side, twisting, and bending and flexing. And now we're going forward and back. So you'll see side to side, and this is the right side. And what we're looking for now is just fluidity. How else can she come out of it and come right back? Can she do it explosively quick? Or is she having a little bit of trouble? Is she kind of falling in and out? And you see her losing a little bit. But let's take a look at the left side. And all of a sudden you see that it takes her a little bit longer to come back, to cut off that one leg, to spring off that one leg. So that, again, we kind of look and say, all right, performance-wise, we have some room for improvement. But also, injury prevention-wise, this is definitely something we noticed and we want to take a look at. Now I'm going to put her into more of a total body move, and this is one of the assessments that we'll utilize for your at-home program that we're going to provide you guys with. This is called the 36 to 360 jump, so I'm going to have her change direction a whole bunch of times in a short amount of time, because she's doing that on the tennis court. I mean, every time that ball comes back, she's changing a different direction. So I'll have to go through. What you can do with this test is you can time it. You can say, all right, I want you to go this many times down and back, and get a clock. You can have distance be a measurement, and we'll explain that in the book as well, and in the at-home program, which is in the book. But I just had to go for the video purpose of this one today. I just had to go down and back, and we can watch and we can see, all right, how's the fluidity look? How's the body performing? And then when we come back, you can see that when she's going, and we'll kind of stop here, she has a little bit of an energy leak where the knee is really diving in. And we, like I talked about, hey, that knee can move side to side, but what we don't want to see is just a complete lack of control. And right now, that's what we're seeing out of that left knee. So when we kind of slow down the tape, we can say, all right, if we're losing control in this position here, that means her next jump probably isn't going to be as explosive, as fluid, as efficient as it could be. which means her performance isn't going to be as great. But also she could be at risk of putting in a vulnerable position for injury. And you can kind of see actually how that next jump wasn't as great as again it could be. So when we look in a clear, say, okay, right knee has a little bit of vulnerability. Left knee, definitely. And that's something that with her we'll take a look and we'll say, okay, based on what we found flexibility, stability-wise, we're now going to make sure that the foot's doing a little bit better job, the hip's doing a little bit better job, and her total body as a whole is going to be doing a better job. So that way, her knee is in the best position possible to succeed, and her ACL will then be so much safer out in the field because she's a college athlete. She's continuing to fight for spots or continuing to keep that top spot. She's not looking to be out for 6 to 9 months. Plus, she really enjoys tennis. So, again, not that fun to be sitting out on the sideline. So what can we do? We've learned a whole bunch. You might have forgot a whole bunch already of what I said. That's okay. So by signing up with this webinar, you received an ACL ebook and at-home program. Okay. This book goes over everything that we talked about, summarizes it, might even put it in a better way that you might understand it than just kind of what we talked about today. I understand that a lot of it could be very new and very confusing at first, but that's okay. You're taking the right steps, which is incredibly important, and I commend you for that. I'm very, very proud of you guys for signing up and being a part of this today. So you'll have that sent to you in your email. That at-home program is all videotaped. It goes over what we can do for the foot, what we can do for the hip, maybe how to assess, and then how we can train the whole body to make sure that knee is healthy, safe, and not only reducing the risk of injury, but improving performance at the same time. The only thing is it's not individualized. So if you're looking for a more effective and a more efficient program based specifically for you, you can contact me for an assessment. That ACL assessment is $50 for a half an hour, and we'll go over basically a lot of what we did with Nicole, and we'll look at, hey, what are some areas of improvement that we can work on, what's working really well, what's doing a nice job, and how can we become the best athlete possible. And we'll build out an exercise program for you. You can contact me anytime at the email below, nick@dynamichealthfitness.com. And anytime you have questions on the at-home program, even if you don't do you're not able to do the assessment because you live further away, please feel free to contact me. I'm here to help you guys. So as of now, I'm your coach. I'm here to help. Use me as much as possible. And I wish you guys the best. And I wish you a healthy knee. And thanks again. Very grateful that you guys were able to join us today. And I'll see you guys very soon.